Hello, my name is Andrew Farkas. I'm the author of the novel The Big Red Herring, which just yesterday was announced as a finalist for the Forward Indies Humor Award. Uh, I am going to read to you from the novel The Big Red Herring, and so here it goes. The point before the point of no return. This is London, says a voice, though who can tell, since all is black. In this stagnant darkness, for now, ladies and gentlemen, there is time. Today's program, Vase of Making You Talk, will begin shortly, but for now, there is time. If Captain Ahab had written Moby Dick, it would have been half as long. A novella, a short story, a short, 2 words, the whale! But for now, London, says the voice again, and maybe it's telling the truth. Very well. Down stately, crescent-shaped Regent Street, along Shaftesbury of theatre fame, into Charing Cross Road, London's Tin Pan Alley, and so to Trafalgar Square. Roving there, airfoil light shining, is Edward R. Murrow, yes, the chief narrator at CNS. That's the Columbia Narratorial Services, in his black, rocket-like 1942 Chrysler DeSoto. The 1942 Chrysler DeSoto, tomorrow's style today. Though admittedly that today has already passed into yesterday, tomorrow's style yesterday, and that tomorrow never came to be. A history of yesterdays, tomorrows, today, but still, there is time. Edward R. Murrow can just do a little night driving, can tell us this is London, whether it is or not, can even turn on the DeSoto's radio. The radio says, "This is KDRG K-Drag, always headed to commercial just as you tune in. We'll be back right after these words." According to our prophetic correspondent, in the future, when Vase of Making You Talk begins, when our man Ed Murrow starts narrating, there will be characters. A femme fatale bent on destroying her husband, a master of disguise who seeks to reveal an awful conspiracy, a patsy attempting to avoid a horrible fate, a CIA agent with his own private agenda, a matron willing to do anything to save her family, a company man betrayed by his employer, a former KGB agent who's playing both sides against the middle, an assassinated senator who was never an actual senator, a paranoid CEO who has gone missing, a mysterious informant who may only be trying to help, though his motives are unclear, and, without doubt, Nazis. There will be Nazis, so we can rest easy knowing precisely who the bad guys are. The radio says diplomatic immunity liquors. Just say diplomatic immunity, and they'll let you off every time. The noise you hear at the moment is silence, says Edward R. Murrow over the commercials on the radio. There are no air raid sirens, and there won't be any later. Of course, that doesn't mean there aren't machines flying over London at this very moment, machines carrying darkness, the final darkness that'll blot out all we've ever known. But since the alarms are silent, we feel safe. I'm driving past St. Martin in the Fields and the National Portrait Gallery, 2 neoclassical buildings. In front of me now, I can just see Lord Nelson in his Napoleonic stance on top of that big column, and all is quiet. The radio says, milk of amnesia, the cure for whatever the problem was. When that inky blackness does fall, there will be no warning. The searchlights will not burst into action. They'll remain inert, unilluminated, unswooping, projecting beams of oblivion into the ether. The airborne machines will remain cloaked in night. The people, later, there will be no shelters for the children or the adults. But in the present, we needn't worry about the characters or even the events. We, gentle people of Radioland, have the luxury of aimlessness, and it is a luxury. For according to our various in-house critics and scholars, Vase of Making You Talk has sex drugs, violence, conspiracies, terrestrial and extra, artistic forgeries, Antarctic exploration, lunar exploration, sport, alcohol, interrogations, violent, chemical, psychological, espionage, the inner workings of secret societies, the inner workings of rogue television stations, an alien abduction, murder, and not only Nazis, ladies and gentlemen, but Nazis in space! With such a full program later, we might just find ourselves blissfully recalling this moment in time when nothing seemed to have happened yet, when nothing seemed to be happening, though everything, unbeknownst to us, is already underway. The radio says, just when you thought there was no narrative at all, narratol. As the shade descends, it'll be obvious this isn't just twilight. The taller buildings will fall under the shadow and disappear with no hope of return. Then the ink will splash down over the people, the neighborhoods, the roads. Yes, the ink will fall. It will fall until all of London has been engulfed. London? Before I even have a chance to see the town, the jaws of darkness do devour it up. And so, farewell Trafalgar Square, I guess. Apprehensive listeners of Radioland having just been unlondoned, it is only natural that we feel cast adrift, a sea in the formless void. Our clairvoyant correspondent has informed me that Edward R. Murrow feels the same way, lost on an anonymous road in the pitch black, wishing right this very moment that he was in London at the beginning of World War II, because at least that'd mean he was somewhere where something real was happening, uncertain now of where he is, where he's going, what's occurring, if anything, uncertain of his surroundings because his surroundings appear to be uncertain of themselves, appearing to have not yet decided whether they wish to come into being or whether they wish to remain abstract, or whether they were already and are no longer, ladies and gentlemen. Whereas I cannot help our man Murrow, I do have it in my power to help you, though I hold back. Please, dear listeners, do not think I am being coy. The reason I refrain is because once I tell you the setting for today's program, we will have passed the point of no return. We will go sliding down the slippery slope, and our luxury, our aimlessness will become a thing of the past. We will fall lockstep into whatever is to come. Good people of Radioland, who knows what grim revelations await us there. And so there is darkness, and the road, and the radio. The radio says, "A parachrony. We don't make the reality you believe in. We make the reality you believe in better." But it can't last forever. By now, ladies and gentlemen, much like Murrow, you perhaps want form, structure, events that span time, that indulge in cause and effect. And so, soon to be sated people of Radioland, I tell you that Ves of making you talk, although utilizing various locations, takes as its primary setting the general vicinity of Lincoln County, Nevada. Let the inertial slide begin. The darkness up ahead lightens some for Edward R. Murrow listeners, and for you too. Now in the distance, barely visible, weakly lit from behind, is a hill. It isn't much, but it finally is something, luxury be damned. Our body language correspondent has just pointed out that Mr. Murrow appears excited, and yet, how does the primary narrator from CNS know that this hill is meant for him? Couldn't it be any old hill? A hill in a series of unremarkable hills? But no. According to our resident clairvoyant, Murrow knows this is his hill, and he knows because in his mind, the radio tells him so. There will be a sign. You will know when you are in the right place. The place where the story begins, though you are only the narrator, because there will be a sign at the top of a hill. The sign will ignite, will be a beacon for you, and when you read it, you will understand. The radio actually says, "Pilgrim and pagan donuts, make a holy quest for this decadent delight." Indeed, awestruck listeners of Radioland, at the top of the hill there is a sign. It says, Pilgrim and Pagan Donuts. Could that be it? Our future narrator appears to think so, since he roars into the entryway, jams on the brakes, slides, and comes to a squealing stop. The DeSoto somehow aligned perfectly in its parking space outside of this 1940s inspired eatery. Then Murrow lights a cigarette and gazes intently through the windshield at a different sign that, when lit, should say hot now, indicating when a new batch of donuts is done, but this one looks different, like it says something else. A disembodied hand comes into view, hovering near the pole chain that will ignite the neon. It pauses for an agonizingly long time. The radio actually says, coming up next on K-Drag, music. Hours and hours and hours of music. Hope you can stay with us as Ed switches it off. But what the man from CNS heard, again according to our resident clairvoyant, is this, Edward R. Murrow, is an important sign, yes, a sacred sign. It will inform you what time it is, what it's time for. It will be the sign you have forever been seeking. Though your life before may have been cast into the chaos of the void, your existence from there on out will cohere once again. Now there will be structure, form, order, real momentum that you can ride to the Holy Land. And you will know you have reached your true destination when you see the neon that reads, Plot Now. That was the opening of my novel, The Big Red Herring. I'm Andrew Farkas.